What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everything Wrestling. Today, we will begin our tribute to Wrestlemania. So, we are planning to cover the lineage of Wrestlemania. So, with various photos and discussions, we're going to go and dissect WrestleMania from the top to the bottom. Now, how extensive or how far into WrestleMania? Because we are up to WrestleMania, I think 30 something. I don't know how in depth I'm going to go, but we are definitely going to cover the earlier WrestleManias, at least up to, I would say, maybe 20 at least. So sit back, relax, and let's go down that nostalgia road as we begin with WrestleMania 1. All right, so we are beginning with WrestleMania 1, and this was the inaugural WrestleMania. So if you know the story, you know that pretty much Vince he basically gambled on it all. So he put all his money into this event, and it was make it or break it. So if it hadn't been successful, I don't know if we would have if WWE would still be around, but obviously we know it was very successful, and that's why we have the $1 billion company that we have now. So we are kicking it off with WrestleMania 1, which was March 31st, 1985. And this was in terms of card, it was actually a short card compared to what we know now uh with our WrestleManias. So we know that WrestleMania now has went over to pretty much a 2-day event. So this one, I think we had literally maybe 9 matches. So you know that is a short WrestleMania event. But uh the match that we are going to focus on, and as you can see in the picture, was the main event. And the reason that we're focusing on that match is because if you go look at the card for WrestleMania 1, we haven't gotten a lot of those old school figures. I would love to have those figures, such as the US Express, um, uh, Matt Bourne, or Special Delivery Jones, or the Execution, people like that. Those will be, nice to have in the collection. Some of the other matches where we do have the figures, like Brutus against uh, David. Oh, we don't even have a David San Martino. So let me take that back. We got Bruno, but we don't have David. So the matches like Junkyard Dog against Greg Valentine, those are count out matches. So Andre in the $15,000 slam. I started to do that one. I just didn't have time to finish it. So that one, we could have pulled off the $15,000 slam between him and John Studd. But for the sake of conversation, uh, the main event was Hulk Hogan and Mr. T with Jimmy Snuka against Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, with Bob Orton in their corner. And then obviously the referee for that event was Muhammad Ali and Pat Patterson. And as you know, Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, won that match. But we all know the legit feud between Piper, Hogan, and then Piper not actually legitimately caring for Mr. T coming into wrestling. Like, it showed in that match, and overall it was a pretty good match. But like I said, we chose to focus on that one. All right, so now we are moving on to WrestleMania 2. And because WrestleMania 1 was such a success, you can see that just based off the card, that WrestleMania 2 kind of picked up. So, of course, this event was the WrestleMania where it was shot in 3 different locations. So you had Chicago, I think it was New York, and LA. So uh, each one of them had like 4 or 5 matches, if I remember right. Now, don't quote me on some of this, but I think I'm remembering right. I think each one of them had 4 or 5 matches. So the first match that we are going to focus on is the match between Macho Man and George the Animal Steel for the Intercontinental title. So as you can see in the picture, we got Macho coming off the rope, hitting the elbow. Shout out to my boy Bud Lightyear for working with us to do this tribute to WrestleMania. But he got Macho Man coming off onto George Animal Steel. And if you remember that match, that pretty much was the prelude to WrestleMania 3. So you got Macho that was feuding with George Animal Steel, and then eventually you had Steamboat jump into there and to defend George Animal Steel. And that's how we got to the Steamboat versus Macho match, which would happen in WrestleMania 3. Don't worry, we would definitely cover that match. But yeah, so Macho Man wins that match. Overall, we know George Animal Steel's wrestling limited, but for the sake of storytelling, good match. So now we're moving on to the boxing match. And this was, again, coming from WrestleMania 1, this was actually a pretty heated match in terms of storyline. So if you know the story behind this, Piper again had legitimate heat towards Mr. T because he didn't like Mr. T coming into he didn't like the actor coming into professional wrestling. And Piper, Mr. T was a legitimate boxer. So with that being said, you could see that these two didn't like each other, and it showed with the match. Pretty good match. Well, wasn't really a match, but I mean, outside of the fight, and then pretty much Piper ended up taking the gloves off and throwing a couple of wrestling moves. Mr. T will win by disqualification. But again, storyline wise, great story. Both with the legitimate heat. It worked. So now we're covering the battle royal, which was for this battle royal, it was the WWF against the basically WWF and NFL battle royal. So there were WWF uh, athletes in there, and there was also first time they brought in NFL athletes. So I think they had like William Perry. I can't remember the other. I just remember Perry because he's such a big guy. But they had some other football players that were in there. And of course, Battle Royal, pretty much Andre is going to win. So as you can see, our buddy Bud recreated the shot where Andre basically just threw Bret Hart over the top rope to win the Battle Royal. But it was something different. And this was one that took place in Chicago. So pretty cool. So it was them trying out something. Overall, the Battle Royal, man, but the concept was different for that time. All right, so now the main event for Chicago for the matches that happened in Chicago was the Dream Team against the British Bulldogs. Obviously, in the picture, you can see we got that Mattel British Bulldog, Davy Boy, doing the press slam on Brutus, which this was the version of Brutus from the Dream Team, and you can see Greg in the background threatening to get in the ring. So this was actually a pretty good match. We know the technical skills of the British Bulldogs, and the Dream Team in their heyday could run with anybody. So the Dream Team were actually the tag champions, putting the belts on the line, and the Bulldogs would defeat them and become the tag champions. Hopefully, we get a Luscious Johnny Valiant and or Adrian Adonis somewhere down the line. I would love to have that because both of them were very uh, big factors during that golden era. We aren't going to be covering that main event that was in LA, which was Hogan against Bundy in the cage. Reason being because I didn't have time to put together the blue cage and then to actually get Bundy and Hogan shot. So that one would be missed. But if if you remember, that storyline was when Hogan had the broke ribs and he fought Bundy inside the cage. And trust me, I really wanted to do that one, but it's a lot of work putting that cage back and forth together. So, um, yeah, I had to miss out on that one. But we know Hogan won, defeated Bundy, but Bundy put a hurting on them ribs. So that concludes our WrestleMania 1 and 2. Stay tuned as we'll be going into WrestleMania 3. Make sure you subscribe to our channel if you aren't subscribing. Those who have subscribed, thank you for the support. And make sure you click the notification buttons so you can continue to follow us and be notified as we go down this road of reliving a lot of these famous WrestleMania matches. If you haven't checked out our other pay-per-views, we got Royal Rumble, Saturday Night Main Event, which was a pay-per-view, but it's iconic. Halloween Havoc, Starrcade, you name it, we got it. We're covering all of the organizations, WCW, WWE, and we may even do some ECW. We may cover it, but I have to see because if you already know how the figures go, we are limited on ECW figures. Hopefully WWE fixed this and Mattel fixed this, but for right now we got a limited amount to work with. So, but definitely may try to cover some of the ECW pay-per-views. But other than that, y'all stay blessed out there. Y'all stay safe and come back with us on the next road to WrestleMania. Until then, I'll talk to you.